Alright everyone, it's time for Occult Literature, video number 129, almost to the big 130 here, concerning the Hermetic art, a short inquiry. This was written in somewhat antiquated, like British English, so it required a substantial amount of cleaning up actually, and even then, everything like the capitalization is all over the place. But in the sort of British Empire tradition, that was apparently normal, so I retained much of that. Anyway, it's about 52 pages long, so a short-ish work, but it's very dry and academic for the most part, but there are some shining moments in here to make it definitely worth it, and it actually goes in the alchemy category, because as opposed to Hermeticism writ large, it's really about mostly the physical side of alchemy. As always, link in the description to where you can purchase my edition of this work on Amazon, 2 other links to my literary blogs, one on Blogspot, the other on WordPress. They are the same thing. They contain the same content. In a slightly different format, I finally figured out how to have links to the individual posts that actually list all of the works for the WordPress blog. It actually didn't take that much effort, but it was a little bit funny trying to figure out how to get it to format properly. Now, this particular work is the result of Dr. Wynne Westcott's reworking of older material that itself was academic, and then in turn, on even older material that's taken from Flamel, Geber, Philolathus, and some of these other figures within alchemy. Both the physical and the philosophical side of alchemy, and this text is both more dense, strangely enough, but more direct about the meaning behind alchemy. That is, the philosophical side is detailed quite explicitly. The idea of transformation is a philosophical concept that is alluded to within the realm of chemistry. Likewise, chemical processes that are being spoken of by other authors are alluded to in a spiritual manner. You see that the two borrow from and veil one another perfectly. They overlap perfectly within alchemical literature. Some of the stuff here is very explicit, like the concept of aqua regia, the green lion, all of these different sort of names for compounds that ultimately are little more than chemistry. At the same time, these same things are used by different authors and in different contexts to talk about spiritual transformation, philosophical concepts related to Christendom in many cases. It also speaks of the concept of the philosophic fire. Now, this is written about in some depth by Pontanus, John Pontanus, a work of the same title. And essentially, you're talking about a warming agent that is not a flame. Specifically, a composting pile of manure, generally speaking. The idea of purification, in some cases, is literally to take gross, very vulgar matter, like horse poop, and to create something using it or from it that is then of value. The concept of foliated earth is a great one. This is literally nothing more than sort of a saltpeter crystalline deposit that's leached out of soil through the process of watering, and then you take this, and this is where gunpowder comes from. They used to take urine in these times. They would have a pile of straw or composting matter, dump the urine in, supersaturate it, let it dry out, do it again and again. Over time, you got crystals of this material that then could be filtrated through one manner or another, distilled down and then purified, and you could use this to make gunpowder. And it was considered very magical in these eras. It was considered strange because, of course, they didn't understand chemistry as we understand it today in terms of elements and things of that nature. So it's a very interesting work. It's got a little bit more of the philosophical side at first, but it goes, in the notes especially, it's very physical. It speaks about linguistics a little bit, and specifically they talk about Kabbalah, or the idea of the Kabbalist. Even though some of the texts that are referred to have nothing to do with Kabbalah, they are misattributed actually in their form. It talks about the, I believe it's pronounced Aish Mizaref, would be the name of one of these texts, among others, that they're inquiring into. So this is a very high-minded sort of British Empire traditional academic study of very arcane spiritual materials. It's the sort of thing that you get around this time period. Very good work overall. I highly recommend it to anyone who wants to understand alchemy. It has its quirks, though. It is dense. So if you're not into that more academic side, if you just want the more simplistic, hands-on side, stick with maybe Hollandus, some of his works, like on the work of Saturn. Some of these other works are more simplistic, they're more very physical, or they're simplistic and spiritual. That's a little bit less common. Mostly with the philosophical and spiritual side, you get more of the tense, the very weird, flowery, oh, this is the angel of the moon sort of symbology that comes along with them. So again, link in the description to where you can purchase my edition of this work on Amazon. Again, 2 links to my literary blogs, which show other works of alchemy if you're interested. Now, there's sort of, I tried to detail whether they were more on the physical or more on the philosophical side of the alchemical world, because both are of import. I lean more towards enjoying the physical side. I think it's interesting. Some of it's just folklore, some of it's specifically chemistry. I find that more interesting in general. The philosophical texts can be classed as Hermetic in form, sometimes, generally speaking. That's about all. Peace out.